Welcome to Washington Today on C-SPAN Radio for Tuesday, December 24th, 2024. Christmas Eve. Congress is on recess. No events on President Joe Biden's schedule. In fact, by his executive order, federal agencies are closed. Coming up, we'll have a few of the day's headlines and then hear holiday messages from President Biden, some members of Congress, and the leaders of Canada, Great Britain, Israel, and Ukraine. Also, this is a busy travel time. Senator Richard Blumenthal talks about a bill he's working on concerning airline ticket additional fees. And NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command, continues its decades-long tradition, tracking Santa Claus, visiting the homes of all the little boys and girls across the world. Some of today's headlines. Former President Bill Clinton has been discharged from a hospital one day after being admitted for the flu. He is 78 years old. His office putting out a statement. He and his family are deeply grateful for the exceptional care provided by the team at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital and are touched by the kind messages and well wishes he received. He sends his warmest wishes for a happy and healthy holiday season to all. President-elect Donald Trump is commenting on President Biden's clemency action from Monday, writing on his Truth Social account. Joe Biden just commuted the death sentence on 37 of the worst killers in our country. When you hear the acts of each, you won't believe that he did this. Makes no sense. Relatives and friends are further devastated. They can't believe this is happening. As soon as I am inaugurated, I will direct the Justice Department to vigorously pursue the death penalty to protect American families and children from violent rapists, murderers, and monsters. We will be a nation of law and order again. That statement from President-elect Donald Trump. President Biden on Monday signed the $895 billion defense authorization bill into law. It includes a controversial provision restricting transgender health care coverage for children of active duty military members. In his signing statement, President Biden said he opposes this provision because it inhibits the Defense Department's ability to treat all persons equally under the law, no matter their gender identity. President Biden vetoed on Monday a bill that would add 66 new federal judgeships. The bill had been bipartisan when it passed the Senate last summer before the November election, when it wasn't clear which party would control the Senate and the White House. The Republican House passed the bill after the November election when the results were in. And Russian media says a Russian court has sentenced a U.S. citizen, Eugene Spector, to 15 years in jail for espionage. He was born in Russia, moved to the U.S. and got U.S. citizenship, then moved back to Russia and became chair of the board of a medical equipment company. He had been serving a 3.5-year prison sentence for a bribery conviction when he was charged with spying in 2021. And now to the holidays. President Biden writing today on X, Jill and I hold a special place in our hearts for the brave men and women in uniform who defend our nation, many of whom are away from their families this holiday season, wishing you and your loved ones a safe Christmas Eve. It was December 5th that President Biden lit the White House Christmas tree on the ellipse in front of the White House.
This 30-foot red spruce represents the spirit embodied in this year's White House holiday theme, which Jill unveiled earlier this week. The theme is the season of peace and light, of peace and light. The peace we feel as we pause and reflect on our blessing. And the light we see as we gather with loved ones that cherish our time together. During this season of reflection and renewal, many of us will sing, "O Holy Night." The phrase in our song is, "His law is love, His gospel is peace." May I wish for you and for the nation, now and always, as we continue to seek the light of liberty and love, kindness and compassion, dignity and decency. Merry Christmas, America. Merry Christmas to all of you. May God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
President Biden lighting the White House Christmas tree on December 5th. Christmas Day is also the first night of Hanukkah, and on December 16th, President Biden hosted a Hanukkah celebration at the White House, talking about the pain from the war in the Middle East and rising cases of anti-Semitism around the world.
From my perspective, the Jewish people have always embodied the duality of pain and joy. You know, the late Rabbi Jonathan Sacks said, "A people that can walk through a valley of shadow of death and still rejoice as a people that cannot be defeated by any force of fear. Any force of fear. That resilience and that capacity to find faith and joy despite centuries of persecution and pain is your light. Like the light of miracles throughout the Jewish history, from the menorah oil lasting 8 days to the miracle of Israel itself. Look, let me close with this. Throughout my life, rabbis, Jewish friends, colleagues have always been there for me and my family when we've gone through very tough times. And I mean it sincerely. Been there, on our doorstep, in our home, with us. They taught us so much about the optimistic spirit of the Jewish people. Above all, they taught me one thing. We can never lose hope. Hope, hope, hope. I've seen the power of that hope in my own life and the life of our nation. Next week, you'll light the 8 candles in your menorahs. My final Hanukkah message to you is this. As president, this is to hold on to that hope. Shine your light. Shine the light of optimism. And above all, keep the faith. Keep the faith. May God bless you. Happy Hanukkah.
President Biden at the Hanukkah reception at the White House December 16th. Tomorrow is the first night of Hanukkah. Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop of New York, was interviewed on WPIX-TV in New York about Christmas, during which he was asked about the faith of President-elect Donald Trump. He said in his answer that he was asked to deliver the opening prayer at the presidential inauguration on January 20th.
In a recent interview, you said that President-elect Donald Trump takes his Christian faith very seriously. Do you think it's a result of what's happened to him over the last few years, including the assassination attempts? And have you talked to him since the election?
Well, Kayla, I would say that had something to do with it. You never know, because it's all God's actions. It's not ours. So faith is a gift. And it's God's initiative. It's not our energy that does it. We got to cooperate. We got to embrace it. But I believe him. He says to me, you know, something mystical happened in the 2 assassination attempts. I reminded him that when Ronald Reagan visited John Paul II, both of them had been victims of vicious assassination attempts and barely escaped alive. And Ronald Reagan said, Holy Father, Mother Teresa told me that God spared my life because he's got something important for me to accomplish. And John Paul II grinned at him and said, Mr. President, Mother Teresa told me the same thing. So why don't the 2 of us work together and get something done in the world? So I believe President Trump. And I believe that that faith is stirring. Yeah. I believe that he may have had a bit of a rekindling. Hallelujah, because I don't know how anybody could be president of the United States without a deep faith.
Yeah, I mean, at the inauguration, there's usually somebody, a clergy. Are you going? Are you going to be doing the prayer?
I am. Thanks for asking, Dan. And the president was kind enough to ask me to do the opening prayer.
Yeah, I thought
he had asked me to do the one in 2016, too. So he asked me this time. I said, well, I did it 8 years ago. I hope this one works.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan of the Archdiocese of New York this morning on WPIX-TV. The U.S. House Appropriations Committee has on their website, in case you missed it, this holiday season, the House Appropriations Committee presented the 12 Days of Appropriations, an initiative that unwrapped the many facets of the appropriations process. Read on to find a festive roundup of the different elements and processes that support our work to fund the federal government, ensure accountability, and represent Americans. Day 1. Forget the red suit. We're talking about a different clause. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7. The Constitution makes clear no money shall be drawn from the Treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. This is our foundation. Day 2, we don't have any turtle doves, but we do have 2 main federal budget categories, discretionary and mandatory spending. Just like Santa checks his list, so do we. Discretionary spending is reviewed and determined by the Appropriations Committee. Mandatory spending, however, is predetermined spending that is not under our jurisdiction. And it goes on from there. You can find it online at appropriations.house.gov. Many members of the House and Senate are sending holiday greetings by video. Here are Congressman Max Miller, Republican from Ohio, and Senator Alex Padilla, Democrat of California.
Hi, everyone. As we celebrate this season, I want to take a moment to reflect on the values that bind us together as a community. Values of hope, compassion, and unity. The holidays remind us of the strength we draw from one another and how fortunate we are to live in this great nation. In the coming year, Let us continue to build on these values, working toward a brighter future for all. May this season fill your homes with joy, peace, and the warmth of family and friends. Wishing you and your loved ones a very happy and healthy holiday season. God bless you.
Hi, this is Senator Alex Padilla, wishing you and your loved ones a happy, peaceful holiday season. Now, 2024 sure was an eventful year, to say the least. From the Summer Olympics in Paris, and yet another Dodgers World Series, or here in the Senate, protecting over 120,000 new acres of federal land in California, and confirming the 200th federal judge under the Biden administration. We've been busy. And of course, 2024 also saw another intense election cycle. But please know you can always count on me to stand up for California values. That means fighting to protect diverse and immigrant communities from hateful rhetoric and radical policies, safeguarding the climate and green energy accomplishments that have made California the envy of the world, defending democracy and our sacred right to vote, and working hard to lower the cost of everything from groceries to gas to healthcare. So we've got some work ahead of us. But even after a year like this, and even when we might feel exhausted, we need your help. Because in our nation's toughest moments, it's always been we, the people, who determine our future. I hope you make time this holiday season to reflect on the year that was, to celebrate the holidays, and to spend precious time with family and loved ones. From my family to yours, happy holidays.
Senator Alex Padilla, Democrat from California, and before that, Congressman Max Miller, Republican from Ohio, with those holiday videos. The Globe and Mail in Canada writes the Prime Minister has no plans to step down over the Christmas holidays, despite mounting calls for him to quit. And Chrystia Freeland is considering a leadership bid that is being spurred on by Liberals who believe she is a strong contender should Justin Trudeau resign. A Liberal insider said the Prime Minister continues to reflect on whether to stay or leave and will spend Christmas in Ottawa and then take a skiing vacation with his family in British Columbia. That was from the Globe and Mail. Prime Minister Trudeau put out his own pre-Christmas video.
Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas. This is a time of year to slow down, to rest, and to connect with the people you love most. It's a moment to put our phones down, to put our politics aside, even when that one cousin makes it really hard, and to focus on what matters. For Christians, it's a time to celebrate the birth of Christ and think about his story of kindness, forgiveness, and faith. The lessons of his life are universal, and they inspire and comfort people every time they're told and retold. For so many, the holidays are a time of big family gatherings and feasts, of gifts and celebrations. But maybe it's a very hard time for you. If you're grieving, worried, or alone, this can be the toughest time of the year. It can be the loneliest. So let us all check in on the people in our lives who've not had an easy time this year and who may be needing us more than we know. For a lot of Canadians, Christmas is not a holiday at all. So thank you to our brave first responders, CAF members, healthcare and essential workers, and everyone who's on a job right now so that others can stay home safely. You embody what Christmas is really about: giving, gifts, food, and service to those around us. I wish joy to everyone who's celebrating today and comfort to those who are suffering. Wherever you are, I hope you find light and hope for the year ahead. Merry Christmas.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in a video. An article from the National Post in Canada from Monday reads, if you haven't already received an item held up by the 5-week Canada Post strike, it could be coming today or Christmas Eve. The Crown Corporation, whose 55,000 workers were sent back to work by the Canada Industrial Relations Board last week, said in a Friday statement that all the backlogged parcels had been processed and were ready for delivery, if not already sent out. In early December, the number of items delayed hit 12 million, per the Financial Post. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, head of the Labour Party, said in his first Christmas message as Prime Minister that he's looking forward to a better, brighter future and peace, especially in the Middle East.
This Christmas, people will be travelling up and down the country, heading home, visiting relatives and loved ones, to celebrate together the hope and joy of this special season. It's a time to remind ourselves what's really important: family, friendship, and fellowship between all people, being there for one another in these celebrations as well as the more difficult times. I'd like especially to thank those who will spend their Christmas serving others this year in our NHS and emergency services, our armed forces, and the churches and charities that will welcome every person this Christmas. Because I know this is not an easy time for everyone. And my thoughts are with all those who are lonely this Christmas, having a tough time, missing a loved one. You are not alone. Because as Christians celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, the Christmas story reminds all of us to reach out to one another, to care for one another, and to look after those around us. This Christmas, I will be hoping for peace, particularly in the Middle East, as the birthplace of the Christmas story. I'll be looking towards a better, brighter future for every person, and celebrating the joy and wonder that Christmas brings. So, from my family to yours, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer in his first Christmas video message as Prime Minister. AFP reports from Bethlehem in the West Bank. Hundreds of people gathered at the Church of the Nativity in the Christian holy city of Bethlehem on Tuesday to mark another solemn Christmas overshadowed by the war in Gaza. Missing for a second consecutive year were the festive decorations, and the crowd paled in comparison to the throngs of tourists and pilgrims of Christmases past, a reflection of the somber mood as the war between Israel and Palestinian militants in the Gaza Strip churns on. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about the war in his Christmas video.
My dear Christian friends, as you gather with your family and friends this Christmas, I wish the Christian community in Israel and around the world blessings for a Merry Christmas from the Holy Land. At a time when Israel is fighting on 7 fronts, we deeply appreciate the steadfast support of our Christian friends around the world. You've stood by our side. You've stood by our side resiliently, consistently, forcefully, as Israel defends our civilization against barbarism. The people of Israel are united in defending our nation against those bent on our destruction. We seek peace with all those who wish peace with us, but we will do whatever is necessary to defend the one and only Jewish state, the repository and the source of our common heritage. Israel leads the world in fighting the forces of evil and tyranny, but our battle is not yet over. With your support and with God's help, I assure you, we shall prevail. From Jerusalem, City of Peace, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu putting up that video today. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also posting a Christmas video. He's standing in front of the St. Michael's Golden Dome Monastery in Kyiv. It opens with a rendition of Carol of the Bells, written by Ukrainian composer in 1914, which President Zelensky calls a gift to the world. President Zelensky says in his message, for the second time, we celebrate Christmas on the same date as one big family, one country. For the second time in modern history, Christmas unites all Ukrainians. He's referring to the different dates of the Western Christian tradition versus Eastern Orthodox, which celebrates Christmas in January. President Zelensky also says, all we need is to live peacefully on our land, to see the sun, our sky, and the Christmas star in it, not Iranian drones and Russian missiles. But some people are bored and lack excitement. These words are proof of how far they are from God, from Christianity, from real faith. And this is proof why their bondage and darkness are losing. We know this. The world knows it. Washington Today continues in a moment.
Witness democracy in action with C-SPAN. Experience history as it unfolds with C-SPAN's live coverage this January. As Republicans take control of both chambers of Congress and a new chapter begins with the swearing in of the 47th President of the United States. On Friday, January 3rd, don't miss the opening day of the 119th Congress. Watch the election of the House Speaker, the swearing in of new members of Congress and the Senate, and the first day of leadership for South Dakota's John Thune as the new Senate Majority Leader. On Monday, January 6th, live from the House chamber, witness Vice President Kamala Harris preside over the certification of the Electoral College vote, where this historic session will officially confirm Donald Trump as the winner of the 2024 presidential election. And on January 20th, tune in for our live all-day coverage of the presidential inauguration as Donald Trump takes the oath of office, becoming the 47th President of the United States. Stay with C-SPAN throughout January for comprehensive, live, unfiltered coverage of the 119th Congress and the presidential inauguration. C-SPAN, democracy unfiltered, created by cable.
Welcome back to Washington Today, available as a podcast on the free C-SPAN Now mobile app and wherever you get your podcasts. Story from Associated Press. American Airlines briefly grounded flights nationwide Tuesday due to a technical issue just as the Christmas travel season kicks into overdrive and winter weather is threatening more potential problems for those planning to fly or drive. American Airlines was cleared to fly by federal regulators about 1 hour after a national ground stop order was issued by the Federal Aviation Administration. There were 1,447 delays for flights entering or leaving the U.S. early in the day, with 28 cancellations. That was from AP. Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, put up a video this week on air travel and a bill he's been working on.
Traveling by air this holiday season, chances are you're going to be frustrated and infuriated, not just by cancellations and delays, but sky-high fees. Travelers feel like piggy banks being shaken down. In fact, they're forced to pay extra for almost everything. If you want to reserve a seat, there's a fee for that. If you want to change or cancel your reservation, there's a fee for that. If you want to travel with a bag, there's a fee for that too. None of these charges have any connection to airline costs. Airlines call this practice unbundling. Frustrated passengers have a different word for it: junk. Sometimes they have another four-letter word. Airlines often conceal these fees, making comparison shopping difficult, if not impossible. They're stifling competition. For the past year, my permanent subcommittee on investigation has been looking into how American, Delta, United, Frontier, and Spirit have used these fees to shortchange travelers. Our findings are striking. In 2023 alone, these airlines collected more than $3 billion in seat fees. That's an increase of 50% from just 6 years ago. Also, since 2018, American, Delta, Frontier, United, and Spirit generated $25.3 billion in checked bag fees. These fees are pure profit for the airlines, no cost. Our investigation found that airlines are now exploring new ways to charge customized, targeted fees to different passengers involving more advanced technology. They're using algorithms and maybe even artificial intelligence. To end rising junk fees and empower passengers, we need greater transparency. The billions of dollars in airline profits from seat fees and charges should be fully disclosed to the public. And we also need the FAA and other government watchdogs to have more bite than bark. I'm pushing to pass the Airline Passenger Bill of Rights and the Fair Fees Act. Yes, to give travelers real rights. The airline industry has spent millions to fight these measures. And finally, at the root of the problem is a lack of competition. Consolidation has enabled 4 airlines to control nearly 70% of the entire market. Major carriers march in lockstep on these fees, and we need a review of what can be done to create more competition, leading to lower prices. Let's crack down on proliferating fees. No fees without fairness.
Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut, posting that video. Another AP story, this will be the first holiday season since a Transportation Department rule took effect that requires airlines to give customers an automatic cash refund for a canceled or significantly delayed flight. Most air travelers were already eligible for refunds, but they often had to request them. Passengers can still ask to get rebooked, which is often a better option than a refund during peak travel periods. That from AP. And the Transportation Security Administration says it expects to screen more than 39 million holiday travelers nationwide between December 19th and January 2nd. And in the holiday spirit, the TSA choir put up this parody of the 12 Days of Christmas.
12th day of Christmas, TSA sent to me. 12 pre-check travelers, 11 pilots flying, 10 private screenings, 9 flights are canceled, 8 water bottles, 7 scanners scanning, 6 bags of checking, 5 real IDs, 4 crying kids, 3 112 latex gloves, and a boarding pass with your ID.
Wall Street today, the Dow up 390, Nasdaq up 266, S&P up 65. The Christmas tradition has become nearly global in scope, begins an AP story. Children from around the world track Santa Claus as he sweeps across the earth, delivering presents and defying time. Each year, at least 100,000 kids call into the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, to inquire about Santa's location. Millions more follow online in 9 languages, from English to Japanese. On any other night, NORAD is scanning the heavens for potential threats, such as last year's Chinese spy balloon. But on Christmas Eve, volunteers in Colorado Springs are fielding questions like, when is Santa coming to my house? And am I on the naughty or nice list? That from AP. The NORAD Santa tracker on X, at NORAD Santa, has been giving video updates all day on Santa's location. It started with liftoff.
NORAD radars have sensed movement near the North Pole. It appears that the elves have finished loading Santa's sleigh, and Santa has lifted off. Even loaded with all the gifts and goodies, Santa's sleigh seems to be moving lightning fast. He has a busy night ahead of him if he's to deliver all of the holiday gifts on time. No worries, though. NORAD will be sure skies are clear for each stage of Santa's Yuletide journey. For more information about NORAD, visit www.norad.mil.
NORAD is receiving reports from Space Operations Command Operated Defense Support Satellites, or DSP, that Santa has begun his journey. The DSP satellites use infrared sensors to detect heat from missile and booster plumes against the Earth's background. But in this case, the infrared sensors are picking up the heat signature from Rudolph's bright red nose. NORAD will continue to monitor DSP to keep track of Santa's progress around the globe and tell you where he's going next.
That video from the NORAD Santa tracker on X. Lieutenant General Thomas Cardin, Deputy Commander, U.S. Northern Command, and Vice Commander, U.S. Element, NORAD, gave an update in a CTV interview in Canada.
Well, this is our 69th year of tracking Santa. It started in 1955 with a misprinted ad. A young boy called NORAD to ask about Santa. And today we have 1,000 volunteers continuing to answer the phone here to give updates on Santa.
So give us a little background. How does NORAD track Santa? What kinds of things do you monitor to make sure Santa is doing okay and he's still on the right track?
Well, actually, we use the radars, our network of satellites, and our fighter jets that we use to protect North America every single day. Just today, we have a special aviator in the sky with Santa Claus. I think it's important to note that our North Warning System radars that are actually arrayed across Canada and Alaska give us the first indicators that Santa's lifted off from the North Pole, and he's been moving now for over 3 hours.
All right. So does Santa know you're keeping him safe? Does Santa know you're tracking him to make sure that he does have a safe flight around the world?
Yeah, Santa is aware. Okay. And in fact, he slows down a little bit to let our jets pull alongside and tip the wings to Santa from time to time. And then he moves out smartly to deliver gifts to boys and girls around the world.
All right. So as you continue to track Santa, make sure he's safe. What's your message to little children, big and small, all around the world right now?
Well, I think it's important to be in bed by 9 o'clock. It improves the chances that Santa drops off those gifts at your house. So that's very important.
Lieutenant General Thomas Cardin from NORAD interviewed on CTV. You can follow their Santa tracker online at NORADSanta.org, and the number to call if you would like to get a person in Colorado Springs, 1-877-HI-NORAD. Thanks for listening to Washington Today. Sign up for C-SPAN's evening newsletter word for word, and we'll send you the stories making headlines in Washington every day. Subscribe at cspan.org/connect. Have a good night and happy holidays, and a note that Washington Today will not be airing on Christmas Day. As we leave, Congressman Darren Soto, Democrat of Florida, who plays in a folk rock band, putting up this musical holiday video.
During this holiday season, Team Soto has an important message for you all. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, prospero